The reason behind this book is that for many of us who have, for any Indian actually who has ever traveled across Spain or Latin America, we have gone through that. Will have gone through that experience that wherever complete strangers come up to you and just tell you that, oh, you are from India. That is the land of Tagore. They call Tagore Tagore, and that's the India means Tagore. And over the years, I have studied in Latin America for many years, and I have been overwhelmed by small kids reciting Tagore. And everybody, if you don't know Tagore, you are culturally illiterate in the Spanish speaking world. Tagore's position is absolutely hugely revered. And in Spain, as well as in Latin America. In Spain, in the 1960s and 70s, it was rather difficult to find a house of a cultured gentleman or a gentlewoman without a portrait of Tagore hanging in the house, somewhere in the house. So he was a symbol of kind of cultural renaissance in Spain. And he left a deep impact on Latin American literature, on Spanish literature. But what is happening right now is that there is a certain decline in interest in Tagore because of the changing times. And uh, why this happened in Spain, in the Spanish language, is something that is a very interesting matter. Spanish literature has certain kind of a tradition through which they could easily connect with Tagore, and Tagore's translations into Spanish were of a very high standard. Very, very beautifully done.
Don't you think English has larger readership?
Spanish is the language which has the largest, is the Spanish population, speaking population is the biggest population in the world, linguistic population, more than English. So it is very important for us to revive Tagore, and at a time when Tagore's popularity is declining in the face of popular culture all around the world, which is taking us in a different direction. But what we found is that in the process of editing this book, what I found, there was so much of Latin American writing or Spanish writing, Spanish philosophers, the greatest Spanish philosophers of the 20th century, like Ortega y Gasset, like Juan Ramon Jimenez, writers, great writers, they have actually written long essays on Tagore. And so all of this is getting lost. So we wanted to bring together all this writing that is on Tagore, on great Latin American writers. How many of us know that Pablo Neruda actually copied certain lines of Tagore and inserted in his poems, 20 Poems of Love and One Song of Despair, his most popular book of love poetry, actually had an entire poem which was a complete copy of a Tagore poem. And Neruda was completely under the spell of Tagore for a certain period of his life. One of the reasons why Tagore reads so wonderfully in Spanish, not only is because the translations are very good, but also because there is a certain kind of a compatibility between our literary tradition and the Spanish literary tradition, between the Bengali language and the Spanish language. It just feels right. English, or even the best of English translations, Tagore's own translations of English were disastrous. But even later traditions, later translations of Tagore, if you look at the English translations, they sound so odd. They don't plug in with the rest of the English language tradition, the Anglo-Saxon tradition. Whereas in Spanish, there is a very natural Spanish translations which were always derived from the English translations. They work much better. The second generation translations are actually work much better than the source. And this was perhaps because of the certain compatibilities of language. And many people, even writers, when I was writing this book, many writers whose writings were originally in English and we had to translate that into Spanish, told me that actually their essay sounds much better in Spanish than in English. So if we cannot, if we let Tagore's memory die in the Spanish-speaking world, we will not have anybody to replace it. We will lose this huge bridge that exists between Spain, between this whole Spain, Latin America, and India. We will always have to depend on. So Tagore, we need, desperately, we need to keep Tagore alive. So this book has been published in India. It is published from Bombay. In fact, I am the publisher also, publisher and the editor of the book. And it is called Amaranta. And now we are doing a series of publications taking Indian literature into Spanish. And this book was a kind of a history because it's the first time that Sahitya Academy, in the history of 61 years of Sahitya Academy, ever financed a book which is in a foreign language. Sahitya Academy has never done that. So we had to get into the committees, change the rules of the Sahitya Academy to enable these grants. So also the Spanish embassy, which gave the grant, part of the grant, it had never supported an Indian poet. Their job is to support Spanish poets in India, the work of Spanish poetry in India or Spanish writers in India. Why would they do an Indian poet in a Spanish language for distribution in Spanish? The opposite of their mandate. So they also broke their rules. So we traveled from the top universities in Spain, in Salamanca, Barcelona. In Barcelona, for example, there is this huge house of Asian culture, and inside it, the main auditorium is called Auditorium Tagore. And we did it with the bust of Tagore outside. So that is how it happened. And the book is a part of that project, and we hope that this is our attempt to revive Tagore and bring in more translations of Tagore. Only 5% of his works have been translated into Spanish. In fact, only about 7 or 8% has been translated into English to begin with. So a lot of work needs to be done.
Thank you, Indranil.
Questions?
In fact, I was
Question?
pleasantly surprised that in Spain there is an educational institution in the name of Tagore. So it was really a pleasant surprise to me